Hey there, and welcome back to Temporary Locals.
I'm Jared.
And I'm Megan. This week, our guest is taking us to the White Desert, also known as the frozen continent of Antarctica. But before we get into that conversation, for those who don't know us, if this is your first time on the podcast, welcome. We're so glad to have you. Jared and I are a travel-loving couple who somehow always end up feeling like locals wherever we go. From small towns to some of the world's most iconic wonders, we share our stories, hidden gems, and occasional history or true crime that shape the places that we've actually been. Or sometimes, like today, we have on a guest to share about their experiences. So if you're into travel, storytelling, and a little bit of mystery, then you're in the right place. And we would love it if you would subscribe and join us for the ride. Whatever platform you're on, it's totally free. We don't have any paid subscriptions yet, unless you want to sponsor us. But as always, we appreciate any other methods of free support, such as sharing the episode, giving a like, comment, or even leaving a review. But with that, we'll go ahead and introduce our guest. Today, we'll be chatting with Matthew Hashuga, who is a detective by trade, and when he's not working, he's usually globetrotting with a deep love for history and culture. So in our conversation with him today, we learn about why he chose this destination and how he got to this desolate continent, and then all that he saw and learned along the way. So with that, let's get into our conversation.
So we are here today with Matt Hashuga, and we're going to be just doing something a little different today. You know, normally each episode is kind of on a different destination. We normally do like a different country or state, depending on whether we're stateside or not. But today we're going to be talking about an entire continent, and you're probably the only guest we'll ever have on that we're going to talk about this destination. So we're really excited to have you. And Matt came on to talk about his experiences in Antarctica.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
Taking time, especially kind of in this lull moment in the holidays.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Too, so.
Yeah, so what made you decide? I mean, I know you've been kind of all over the world, and that's kind of another thing is, you know, we've interviewed a number of different types of travelers on this podcast, from backpackers to expats, but I think you really embody what it means to be an adventure traveler, and so that's something I really like. That's the kind of travel I enjoy too. What made you decide to go to Antarctica?
For the longest time, I really didn't go anywhere between work and you know, just taking care of family and home. Vacation was maybe going to the Jersey Shore for a weekend, things like that. In 2023, I decided to get to some of these places that I've only read about or seen on television and experience it in real life. And I enjoyed myself. Mm-hmm. And I did that by myself, except for a trip to Italy that I took with my father. He was 84 years old. And it wasn't the easiest trip for him. Mobility issues, but he had a great time. We went to like 9 different cities. That was at the end of 2023. It was about 7 months later, he passed away. And before he passed away, you know, we talked, and I didn't do much in 24. But he told me, he's like, listen, don't wait, you know, like, go and see everything you can see. And I sort of took that to heart. Mm-hmm. And in 2025, this year, I know it's almost over, but it's been a heck of a year. I started planning trips. I got to Egypt. I got to India. They were high on my bucket list. And I got to experience a trip with my daughter in the summer, which was her first time out of the country. And that was an adventure in and of itself. That was to Costa Rica. As I thought about things, I'm thinking, wow, I've hit in just about every continent. And Antarctica was something I thought about. I just wasn't sure, like, how to go about doing that. So I started to research it, and I came across Atlas Ocean Voyages, which it kind of stuck because I grew up in Atlas. That's where my dad lived, and I thought, wow, this might be doable. And I got connected with a man called through a company, Polar Adventures, Clayton Anderson, and you know, he kind of explained things to me. Atlas is sort of new to Antarctica. They haven't been around like Quark or National Geographic. So, the price was right, the timing was right, and I thought I'm just going to do it, and yeah, that's pretty much how that went. On a side note, I did have to plan a quick trip to Australia. No one really says that, but I literally spent a weekend in Sydney just to be able to make sure Antarctica was going to be the seventh continent. And yeah, Sydney was great. I definitely would spend a lot more time there, but for the weekend, it was a fun getaway.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so what goes into, I mean, obviously we all know that when you go to certain countries, you need like a visa, you obviously need a passport. What all is required to go to Antarctica? It's not like going anywhere else, right?
Correct. So Antarctica technically doesn't have citizens. No one like lives there permanently. It's a very unique continent. I mean, it is dedicated to science and research. 58 different countries have scientific research centers there, and they all get along. There's really no politics, anything like that. They share everything that they do. To get there, I went through South America, so I had to fly in Argentina first. I didn't need a visa, and other than just being healthy, and they did medical checks prior to leaving South America just to make sure everybody was okay. And I mean, that was about it. Antarctica in of itself, they have a lot of it's highly regulated. Um, like you can't take any food naturally. Getting on and off of the ship, we had to disinfect our boots. Getting off the ship, getting back on the ship, to not infect anything with the penguins, the wildlife. I mean, I guess if they get sick, it could wipe out an entire colony pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Other than that, that was about it.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know what I thought you'd have to do, but it's interesting about the like having to disinfect. I remember having to do that, like going into a cave before. I wouldn't have thought that you'd have to do that going to Antarctica, but it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you went there around like right after Thanksgiving in this year, 2025.
Yes.
And you spent about a week out there. Is that right?
It was about 2 weeks total. I had a little bit of time in Argentina before the trip, and a little bit of time after. And by a little bit, like 2 days before going to Antarctica, and then 2 days when I returned. It was 2 days through the Drake Passage to get to Antarctica. We spent 5 days around the peninsula, and then 2 days back. So like 9 days at sea.
Wow.
Yeah. How was going through the Drake Passage?
It was. I don't want to say what I expected because I've heard stories, but this is their summer. Like the crew on the ship said that the sea was calm. They call it the Drake Lake. It was definitely the roughest sea I've ever been on. The first day, that Saturday, I got sick. I mean, and it wasn't just me. Everybody did. So I sort of had to change my diet for the rest of the trip just to be a little bit more mindful of that. Coming back, it was a lot more rougher, like 9-meter swells, and moving around was difficult, but I didn't get sick. So whatever, that sort of worked. But
Are you prone to motion sickness, or was that
no, I
something
didn't.
new?
I didn't take anything. I don't wear a patch or anything. It really doesn't bother me. So that's why. Yeah, it was pretty rough.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that the Drake Passage is sort of like the Bermuda Triangle of that area. Is that
It is. It's interesting because three oceans actually meet. The Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean meet, along with the South Ocean, and then it's the circumcurrent of the South Ocean that just creates basically what they consider to be the roughest sea, like anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen videos and it looks pretty wild, and I know that the Drake Passage is obviously it's considered very dangerous. So, but you didn't feel in danger or anything at any point?
No, no. No, I felt safe. The ship was amazing. Like I said, Atlas is new to Antarctic, but they've been around since right after COVID, so around 2021, 2022. And the ship that I was on was commissioned 2 years ago. So everything was pretty much state of the art. And I got to go onto the bridge, and they sort of explained to me that, like, there's no what I expected to see, like a giant wheel that you would normally see on a ship. It's nothing like that. It's all automated, and it was the first mate. He explained that the computer can make micro adjustments that like a human can't do to keep the ship at like the safest, most level course.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Wow. So after you got through the Drake Passage, what was the first thing you did when you actually reached Antarctica?
So we did it. The first when we reached Antarctica was on December 1st, which was actually cool because that is Antarctica Day. That's recognized globally. The Treaty of Antarctica was signed on December 1st in 1959. Uh, that's during the Cold War, like right in the heart of it, and it was the first time the United States and the Soviet Union like agreed on anything. And I want to say it was like 17 countries initially that signed the treaty, and now they're up to 58. But it was December 1st that we got to set foot on Antarctica for the first time, and it was the first thing we saw was a ton of penguins that day, and it was just cool to see these birds that they didn't care that we were there. It wasn't like going to the park and seeing a flock of birds that completely fly away. I mean, they just went about their business. They're coming into mating season, so they're on shore. They're doing their thing, getting ready to nest, and it was incredible. And that feeling of getting off the Zodiac, being on the land, and doing that, it's different than a lot of my other trips. I really do enjoy like history and just learning that in all the different places and other cultures. Antarctica is relatively new, serious exploration wasn't done until like the late 1800s, early 1900s. So there's not a lot of history in that sense. But the continent, it was just amazing to be there and to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we in modern times even discovered Antarctica until 1820, I believe. And which is interesting because Antarctica is actually found on like ancient maps, like the Perry Reese map, and that's a whole nother discussion. But it is really fascinating, and you hear a lot of. I like silly things, I like conspiracies and all that kind of stuff. So I'll just ask this so we can get it out of the way. Did you see anything? Did you see anything weird there? Did you see any pyramids or aliens or anything?
No, and yeah, that came up from everyone I talked to. From aliens to pyramids to the ice wall. No, I didn't see anything like that. And I kind of half expected, maybe, who knows. And I think that just comes with the fact that Antarctica is regulated. You just can't drive there or get on your own boat and go there. Like
Right.
it's very strictly regulated, but it's not for the reasons that people think.
Right. How many people were on this expedition with you?
So the entire ship, including the crew, it was less than 200 people. I think there was like 106 passengers plus the crew. And and that was another thing with Antarctica. It's regulated to no more than 40 people on land at a time. So we'd be in Zodiac, so about 8 to 10 of us, and go from the ship to shore and spend a little bit of time there, maybe like an hour or so, and then come back. And they'd go in groups to make sure that anybody that wanted to had the opportunity to partake.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it sounds like something that would be really interesting to do. I mean, I guess on a more personal note, if you don't mind answering this, like how expensive is it to go to Antarctica? Is it like relatively comparable to going to Europe, or is it expensive to do?
It's depending on what you want to do or how you do it. Yeah, it could be expensive. National Geographic is the most well known, and I've heard incredible things about their trips. And they've been around a while, but that could be anywhere from around $25,000 to $30,000 a couple to do that trip. Yeah, no, I have no issues at all. Like I said, it was something I wanted to do, and the timing was right. But with Atlas and being new, they're trying to get the reputation, so their prices are much more discounted than that. If you hit it at the right time for a couple to go, could probably do it for under 15,000, which I do. I mean, I know myself, I can probably do 2 years worth of incredible trips for that much. But compared to some of the other offerings, it's not bad. And most of the people who were working like on the expedition team had worked for National Geographic prior to coming to Atlas. So they definitely had the experience and the knowledge, and yeah, it was worthwhile. I wouldn't call it a vacation, because it felt like if I wasn't doing a shore landing, I was in a lecture hall, learning, getting a lecture on what we were about to see or what we had seen.
Yeah.
It was different than any of my other trips, but it's up there.
Right. So yeah, not really like a backpacker type destination. No hostels or anything. It's
No. Yeah, there's no hotels. Although I did joke with my friends that I half expected to see a Dollar General store being erected somewhere down there like they are here, but
right, or a Starbucks, or
yeah.
That'll be the first thing that goes in Antarctica. Mark my words, it's a Starbucks.
They do have one ATM on the continent. I did not get to see it, but we were told that there is one ATM at the one scientific research center.
Yeah.
We did get to see Chile's research center and Argentina's, which are very close to each other, and they don't occupy them 12 months out of the year. And there was no one there when we were there. They wouldn't come till later on in December, when the summer officially starts.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe the U.S., Japan, and the Soviet Union, they have people at their research centers 12 months out of the year.
Wow. I can imagine that'd be a pretty wild job. I mean, you're with other people, but it's got to be, you have to feel very isolated being out there, I would assume.
Yeah. Going there, so you were there in their summer. What was the weather like? Do you remember the temperature when you got there?
Yeah, absolutely. It was sort of weird, because Argentina, it was like 85 degrees in Buenos Aires. When we went south to Ushuaia, the temperature dropped noticeably. I mean, that's right at the southernmost tip of Argentina. It was around 60, 65 degrees. When we were in Antarctica, it was between 25 and 30 degrees, and that was like pleasant weather for Antarctica. It was actually colder when I got home, because we had a cold spell in Pennsylvania. It was around 12 degrees.
Yeah, isn't that weird how that works? Because there are times that it's colder down here than it is up in Pennsylvania, which is, but yeah, weather's weird. Yeah, so what are some of the other things that you were able to do when you got there?
I actually did get to sleep on the continent for one night. We did a camp out. I thought it would have been a great camp out if we could have built a fire and had some snacks, but that's not allowed. We were allowed to set up camp, tents. We did a short hike. It wasn't a long hike, but it was kind of nice to, just hike through the snow. Without snowshoes, it was a little difficult. I mean, you're going, knee deep in the snow with every step. But we got some incredible views and got to see things that, a lot of the people on the rest of the trip didn't get to see, because that was limited. It was first come, first serve. And again, they were only allowed 40 people on the continent. So there was 38 people that signed up. Someone backed out at the last minute. So there's 37 of us and 2 people from the expedition crew. And I mean, that was like another thing they told us, like, if you have to go to the bathroom more than twice in a night, like, reconsider going, because like you weren't allowed to just go to the bathroom on the continent. So they had an emergency bucket that was strictly for emergencies because, we had to bring anything with us back.
Right. Oh, man. I don't know if I could do it then.
Yeah. Wow. So it's good. I wish more places around here were more serious about the, like, pack it in, pack it out, leave no trace. But wow, that's pretty strict. So it was just a select few that went and did the camp out. That was just one night?
Just one night, yeah.
Okay. And then so where did you stay?
It was called Recess Cove. So it was like on the peninsula of the continent. But we slept in a sleeping bag and tent.
Yeah.
Wow. And how'd you keep warm for that?
I've done cold weather camping in the Adirondacks, so it wasn't. I know that the sleeping bags are rated for like minus 20 degrees. I had no problem. In fact, I had my arms out of the bag because it got pretty warm at night. Wow. In the sleeping bag.
Was that your first day there?
That was on the second. I'm sorry, that was the third day in Antarctica when we did the camp out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So sorry to back it up a little bit, but what was it like, putting your foot on Antarctica for the first time? I feel like I'd compare it to like stepping on the moon. I don't know.
Yeah, it was. It was surreal. It was absolutely surreal. The landscape is like nothing I've ever seen before. It's sunny, but it's not like sunny like at the beach or anything like that. It's hard to even explain. I mean, with the penguins, we were fortunate that it was actually even snowing for the first few days that we were there. So it was kind of magical and just very surreal, almost like an alien landscape. So yeah, stepping on the moon would be a good comparison because it sort of did feel like that, like just being on like in another world with nothing else around, no buildings, no roadways, nothing but just a handful of us, and yeah, it was something else.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean that's one of the tenets of travel is going somewhere that's super exotic or foreign, and I don't think you can get much foreign than Antarctica. I mean, how many people have ever actually stepped foot on Antarctica? I mean, it's probably only in the thousands, right? I'm sure it's not millions, right?
It's low. I mean, I can remember they told us that like congratulations, you've done something that like 1% of the population will ever do. So that was kind of nice. That was neat.
Yeah, that is super cool. So you get there, you step foot on the continent. What was that first day like? Was it kind of just like getting to your quarters and chilling? I know you saw penguins, but was it, like a particularly active day or kind of like a chill day?
Almost every day was active. There was always something going on, and they kept a tight itinerary to make sure that everybody was going to be able to do the excursions to the shore. But if you weren't in a group going on the shore excursion, they were having lectures in regard to what you were going to see or what you may have just saw. So it was a good learning experience as well.
Yeah. And I saw a video of you jumping into water. So tell that story.
The polar plunge, yeah, I'll tell you.
The most legitimate polar plunge.
Yeah, right.
It was one of those things where I definitely wanted to do it. And like anything else, the anticipation is probably worse than actually doing it. The surface temp was 30 degrees. I don't think I could like get on a ladder and inch my way down into water that cold. That's best to just jump right in because the cold didn't bother me once I was in the water. I didn't anticipate the salt content of the water being that high. I've been in the Dead Sea, so I know salty water, but it wasn't quite as salty as the Dead Sea, but it was similar. Like the buoyancy was, more buoyant, and it was like the first thing I wanted to do when I got out. It wasn't even about getting warm. It was just like I need a towel just to get this off my face, because it was just really incredibly salty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I wouldn't even thought that it would be different, but that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I've done polar plunges, up in Minnesota, where you go into Lake Superior.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I was little and it was cold and I cried, but my like dad's friends, they had, it was at his friend's cabin, and they'd have like a sauna, so you'd like get in the sauna, run and do the polar plunge, and then go back. But yeah, I can't even imagine doing that in Antarctica. How long did you stay, and was it just kind of like a quick jump in and then get out, or did you kind of hang out?
Yeah, they had I think they said there was about 100 people who did it. So it was almost all of the guests that did it. There were actually a few people on board that had been to Antarctica before, had done the polar plunge, and they weren't going to do it again. So yeah, it was, I want to say it felt like a lifetime, but it was probably 5 seconds in the water.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
That's awesome. So then what did you do to recover? Did you go get like hot chocolate or something?
Yeah, I did have hot chocolate. They were waiting with their hot chocolate or hot cider, whatever you wanted. But yeah, it wasn't bad. Once I got dried off, I got dressed. It was fine.
Yeah, that is really cool.
I felt good. I mean, they do say there's like a lot of health benefits from doing that, and it did. It felt good.
Yeah, I mean, people do. That's like a thing now. Is people do cold plunges, and yeah. So that's I guess the most natural way to do it is in Antarctica. And I'm sure that water is so pristine too and untouched.
Yeah.
It's not like going into a river in India or something.
Right.
Yeah. What's the elevation there? It's not anything crazy, is it?
It's where I was, no, but they do have a mountain range that runs from the peninsula to, I want to say the southern part of Antarctica, but I'm not even sure if that's accurate because it is south. But it runs across the continent, and even though Mount Everest has the esteem of being the highest peak in the world, there's a peak in Antarctica, but the ice is so high above the peak that it's actually higher than Everest. But it's not. That's counting the ice and snow.
Wow.
And I know that they have done climbing expeditions and skiing. They'll even do skiing in Antarctica. They do heli-skiing. But my understanding is that is very expensive. Probably nothing I'd ever get to enjoy.
Yeah, I would imagine. I would imagine that's expensive. Did you go inside any like ice caves?
No, we did not.
Do they have them there?
I guess you can call it an ice cave where like part of the fjord or the glacier is getting hit with the ocean and the water, and it sort of does create like a hole. I've seen what looked like, and it looked like it went back pretty deep. I don't know how deep it went, but and in certain parts of the continent, I know they, on the glaciers and the ice shelves, there are crevasses and things like that. So I would imagine there are probably several ice caves, but we did not get to see anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're looking at going to Iceland, and that's one of the things that you can do there is they have all these different ice caves that you can kind of go in and explore, and they're huge, so
Yeah, that makes sense with the volcanic activity and everything there.
yeah. So
Yeah. Wow. So we went through your first day. What kind of like excursions or things did you do while you were there? And did you see any polar bears?
No, because there are no polar bears in Antarctica.
Yeah, they're in the North Pole, right?
They're in the north. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Besides penguins, we got to see quite a few humpback whales
Oh, nice.
and a few seals. Um, and other than the seals, the penguins, and the whales, there are a few species of birds, not many, and there's no vegetation. So that's pretty much it for the wildlife there.
Yeah. So I'm guessing as far as like what you ate, I'm guessing any food you eat while you're there is stuff that's brought there. Obviously, they don't grow anything there.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's no animals there to.
Yeah. 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 There's nothing that they have that they can give you that would be like a food from Antarctica. Like going to any other country, you could eat their local cuisine. They don't have anything like that there.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what makes it interesting is like it is extremely exotic and foreign, but there's no real culture because there's no people of that place. So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
um but yeah, I was just wondering about because like you said, the penguins are protected and all the wildlife there's protected, but like going back to Iceland, the puffin bird is like what Iceland's well known for is the puffins. So you would think that they'd be protected, but you can actually eat them. They're like a delicacy there. So, but I assume you weren't able to eat any penguin. So
No. No. I think occasionally the leopard seals will eat penguins and an orca, but other than that, the penguins don't really have any predators either that they have to be worried about. Like the North Pole between the polar bears and the Arctic fox, there's a little bit more.
right, yeah, so they can kind of just thrive down there, which is good for
Oh,
seeing them too.
yeah, and which kind of would make sense to why you mentioned that they just kind of didn't really care that you guys were there. So that might be
They
why
did
they
not.
don't have
Yep.
that sense of like danger because there's nothing really.
Nothing's there to harm them. Nothing. Yeah.
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 Well, and even the people don't harm them, so they don't really have to worry. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so interesting. So did you do some whale watching? Did you go on like an excursion or?
I saw tons of whales. I shouldn't say tons, but no, yeah, I saw probably at least a dozen different humpbacks. Some of them got pretty close. When I was on the ship, I got some really nice videos. They fluke the tail when they'd exhale. I mean, that was incredible.
Yeah. Was that something that they like took you out to go whale watching though, or you just happened to see them while you were there?
There's so many whales down there that you're just going to see them. Whether we were on the Zodiac or on the ship, I mean, they're all over. And that's, I guess, part of the ecosystem of Antarctica. The water is teeming with krill, the small shrimp,
Mm-hmm.
to the point that they actually can see it from space. The schools of krill, and every time the whales would go down and come up, and they're eating the krill, they said it's something like 5 tons every time they take a bite. So the penguins eat the krill, the whales eat the krill, the seals eat the krill, the birds, they all eat the krill. And my question was, well, what does the krill eat?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of the high content of the salt. The water is loaded with a plankton
Mm-hmm.
that the krill feed on, and they thrive and provide food for everything else. Well, the other three species, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
What is the Zodiac? I've heard you mention that a couple times. Is that like
Oh,
the small?
small rubber boat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know you kind of talked about some of the research stations they have there. Did you get to see anything, or did they explain to you like what exactly? I think a lot of people probably have this question is like, what are they actually researching in Antarctica? Did they say anything, or were you able to see
Oh
anything?
yeah, absolutely. They did, because most of the people on the expedition crew have or do work for the research center. So they pretty much, I mean, they're researching everything. Chile and Argentina, they do a lot of research for the penguins. They're kind of right where a lot of the nesting happens. So they're just watching what they do and documenting that. The United States, a lot of the research they're doing is going to translate into space travel. Anyone who's going to the International Space Station, they're going to send them to Antarctica during their winter for some time because other than the lack of gravity, it's kind of the same conditions.
Wow.
And I know that's like where they developed a lot of like Gore-Tex, things like that, things we use every day. They do a lot of the research and development there.
Yeah.
But they've been digging, drilling through the ice. They found a giant lake bigger than any of the Great Lakes in the U.S., like a mile or so beneath the ice, and that was loaded with all kind of different, microscopic life forms. Apparently, it's right over a fault. That, the water's warm there, even though the ice is on top. So. My understanding is they have plenty to research and they're doing it all year round.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that about like astronauts and people in the space program. But I guess that makes sense,
Yeah.
Not just for like the weather conditions and stuff, but like we already kind of mentioned, being in Antarctica would be very like
otherworldly
and very isolated, and I would assume that's how it would be to be in space or on the moon. So it probably also conditions you for that and conditions you to be, away from civilization.
Close quarters, cold, dark. Yeah, it's.
Yeah. I was listening to a story, about some researchers in Antarctica, and like one thing that stuck out to me was that they mentioned, if you're staying there during the winter, that like you are staying there during the winter. There's no coming back to get you. Like once you're there and you're going there for the winter, you're gonna be there. So I assume that any like tourism excursions are only gonna happen in the summer.
Yep. November through March. That's the only time, and a lot of that has to do with the sea ice. So when I was there, there was still a little bit of sea ice, but it was breaking up, not forming. In the wintertime, they've recorded temperatures like 90 below zero, with winds up to 100 miles an hour. And they do have, there's like at least two airports that I could remember that they talked about. I know the U.S. has an airport, they call it the Diamond Runway, because it's not macadam, it's on the ice. But again, they can only land there when, the winds are cooperating. And, so they can't do it. Yeah, if you're there in the winter, you are there for probably at least 6 months. And with nothing growing or anything like that, anything they have to bring with them.
And so, like, while you're there, is everything for this trip and this expedition, is everything kind of included, or were you able to, like, buy things while you're there?
So, I mean, I kind of had like a list of what I needed to bring with me. And most of it was stuff I already had, like cold weather gear, base layers, things like that. They did provide the boots. And for the reasons being that, we had to make sure they were boots that I guess could be easily disinfected coming or going. And they provided the parka, which we got to keep. And the reason I think they do that is that, like, the parka is a crazy bright color green that I'll probably never wear again. But I think it was a way that they can kind of keep track of where everybody was. You weren't going to get lost wearing that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the same idea. A lot of people wear bright colors that like climb Everest, so that they can be found. But a lot of them end up staying up there anyway, even after they're dead. So.
Yeah, this is true. There's not an easy way to get them down.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a passage called like the Rainbow Passage or whatever, and it's just all these brightly colored jackets of dead people up there that you just walk by. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, we were just watching like a documentary.
Yeah.
Mount Everest.
Yeah, it's Everest is something too. I've watched a few documentaries about that, and just the crowds that are there now is incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be able to handle that. The altitude I could deal with, but the long line would be awful.
Right. Yeah, I mean, do you ever see Antarctica kind of becoming more of a tourist destination like that? I mean, I know that they do research there and it's very protected, but as we know, money trumps all things,
Money,
and
this is true. I think it would. I don't think it would get that way simply because it's a very delicate treaty. And one of the reasons why the treaty came into existence in the first place is they didn't want any one country saying this is ours. And mainly it was the US and the Soviet Union. And that reason is Antarctica is loaded with natural resources, natural gas, oil, and gold and things like that they don't want anybody going in there and destroying the continent to get to the resources. And I think if they would allow it to become more of a popular tourist destination and more people would get there, it's going to upset the balance because it's a delicate ecosystem.
mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I mean, you see that happening, and it's been happening for centuries now, but you see that in like places like the Amazon. Once people started going down there, they realized how much resources are down there, like the rubber barons that went down there and just started cutting down trees and the loggers that are there and the gold miners and stuff. It's kind of cool that Antarctica is like kind of the last untouched piece of land on Earth, probably.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and yeah, I mean you're right. Like I mean I know you guys did Rainbow Mountain, and I know when I did it, like they told me that the color bands are coming from the different minerals under the mountain, and the government wants nothing more than to get to those minerals, and who knows, in 10 years that might not even be a place you can go to. So yeah.
That would be a shame.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to go see these things while they're around, while it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So is there anything else from your trip that stands out that you got to do? Did you attend any cool lectures?
All the lectures were great. They were. I mean, I didn't have a lot of knowledge about Antarctica going in, but I learned a lot. I mean, about the exploration. I think my favorite story was the British spent a lot of money to put an expedition together to be the first ones to reach the South Pole. And I believe it was Johann Scott was the captain of the expedition, and it was rough. He lost like half his crew. Excuse me, lost half his crew trying to get to the South Pole, and they eventually got there. When they got there, they found a tent at the geographic South Pole. And inside the tent was a letter from the Norwegians that said, "Welcome to the South Pole." So Norway beat them there by about a week. And Scott lost like almost the rest of his crew trying to get back to the ship. So it was, and they said the Norwegians were just very sporting and had the heart for exploration. They just wanted to reach it just to reach it. And they did it. So that was interesting to learn that and everything that went into it. But they'd actually use Johann Scott as sort of like and like the U.S. as Uncle Sam. That would have been like right before World War One to try to like a national hero to get men to enlist and join the army before that war. In Britain.
Yeah. So it sounds kind of like almost like the space race, between the U.S. and Russia, or the Soviets.
Yeah,
who's going to get there first?
That's absolutely what it was. Because I mean, it was basically like the last frontier on the planet that wasn't thoroughly mapped out or explored, and
yeah. So even us as civilization probably don't know everything that's there either.
Oh yeah, there's a big part of Antarctica. And I mean, it's a big part. It probably takes up a third of the continent that they can access by sea because the ice wall and the sea ice, and then the mountain range on the other side. So it's pretty much not inhabited by any country or research center. And it's that's probably, if I'm to guess, that's where the aliens and the pyramids are.
Yeah, right. That's where they would be. Yep.
Can you describe the landscape? Because I mean, obviously I haven't been there, and I imagine that it's just kind of like flat and white for miles and miles, but you said there's a mountain range, so
So yeah, I mean, you're right. would go to like one of the ice shelves. That's all it is flat ice for miles and miles. I was not on the ice shelf. So I was in the peninsula. So I was at the mountain ranges. So yeah, it was mountainous. And the glaciers, we could see where they're ending and they're breaking off and creating the icebergs and the new sea ice. So it wasn't flat. It was some of the most incredible scenery I've ever seen.
Wow. Yeah. And so you said you went the one day you guys went for a short hike. Did you do any other sort of like hiking or expeditions out in that area or anything?
Yeah, we had one other hike. No, I'm sorry, two other hikes. Um, and yeah, they were short, maybe about a mile. Uh, and it, just to get better vantage points and get better views. I know one of the hikes was to an area called Stony Point, which was snow and ice covered, and we had trekking poles which helped. I thought crampons or snowshoes would have helped a lot more, but we couldn't have them with us. But yeah, it was great. It was
And
great to be able to do that and just sort of walk about the continent and
wow. Yeah. And so these weren't like pre-made trails because I mean, it obviously snows there all the time. So, I mean, could you tell where you were
correct.
going, or I'm
So
guessing you had a
someone
guide?
from the expedition team generally cut the trail,
Mm,
so you can follow. And the more of us that would go would kind of work it down a little bit. But it wasn't like a trail. It was just a path in the ice, and we kind of cut back and forth to traverse it, so we weren't just going straight up. It was pretty steep.
yeah. That's almost like in the jungle. I mean, they'll cut trails in, but it grows so fast that like every time they take a group out to hike, they have to use a machete and you know
Yeah,
cut it.
yeah.
So yeah, man. Well, another little tidbit of information, and we might have to fact check me on this, but I'm pretty sure the only band to play on all continents, which would include Antarctica, is Metallica. Is that correct?
That is correct. Metallica did do a concert at. I don't know if it was the U.S. Research Center or not, but it was one of the bigger research centers. But yeah, they are the only band who have played on all seven.
Yeah, I was wondering when I heard that, I was like, well, who'd they play to? Like penguins? You know?
So, uh, U.S.'s Research Center, when they're at full capacity, is like 315 people.
Wow.
And we didn't go there. That's closer to the geographic South Pole. But people who have been there that were on the trip with the expedition crew said it's basically like a small town.
Yeah. Wow. That's different than you see in like the movies and stuff. It's always like a small. The research center is always like a small little like building with like a few people, that have been there.
Yeah, yeah, and some of them are like that. Like Chile's research center was basically that. It was like looked like a little hunting camp,
Hmm.
a little hunting cabin. That was it.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they go into, or did you learn anything about how they built those research centers there?
Yeah, I mean they have to bring it up. There's no resources there, so anything they're using, they have to bring with them, and they have to be built in a way that they can be taken down.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Nothing there would be like permanent.
yeah.
So.
I did get to see an airplane hangar. It was in an area called Deception Bay. Or, I'm sorry, Deception Island, and it was the site of the very first airplane that landed in Antarctica. I want to say it was around 1919 when that happened, and they built this small hangar. It was by where it wasn't a research center; it was actually a whaling station because they were still doing whaling at the time. But the hangar's still there, and it's kind of like I guess kind of like a living museum. They said it'll stay there until it basically is deteriorates by itself.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I've heard of people, not anybody I know, but I've heard of famous people that like will get married there, in Antarctica and stuff.
Very secluded, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I know even before we did any shore landings or anything like that, anything that we were going to be wearing other than the boots and the jacket they provided, but my gloves, my hat, my scarf, my waterproof pants, like they inspected it first. And one of the reasons they're like, and I was good. I don't have pets, but they're like, a lot of people, if they have pets and they have to make sure that they're not bringing anything onto the continent that could possibly have any kind of contamination. So they were doing like a cleaning of any of the gear you were using, and going over everything, pretty thoroughly, before you could, and then they gave us a locker that we can keep everything in to, change in and out of, to do the shore landings.
Yeah. And as far as like daylight and nighttime, like hours, what was that like? Was it like?
It was daylight the entire time. The sun would get just about to the horizon, but it would never dip below it.
Yeah.
Is it like that throughout the year?
Just the summer, and then in their winter, it's the complete opposite,
Total
and
darkness.
it's dark the entire time.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that would also kind of, I guess, that would be another reason why you wouldn't want people there in the winter, also.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
in that story that I was telling you about, they were I now that you say that I remember that that it's dark during the winter and they were worried about like, depression, and it's kind of the same if like you live in Alaska. They kind of have that
Oh,
same
absolutely.
problem.
Yeah. It has a psychological effect. Yeah, north and south. I think they deal with the same thing. And I get it because I know like this time of the year, it's dark here at like 4:30, and I'm just like, by by 6 o'clock, I'm thinking it's 10 o'clock, and so I can't even imagine.
Yeah, we have those same conversations all day during the winter. It's like, oh man, I thought it was 9 o'clock and it's only 6:30.
Yeah. It is kind of nice though, because you'll think it's almost like bedtime, and then you're like, oh, I still got like 5 hours. Like, what do you want to do? But
Yeah. Well, it makes you definitely be more appreciative, it gives you a different perspective because we talk about, oh, the seasonal depression here, but it's like, in those areas where it's either night or day.
Yeah, and they
Typically
cope with it, and
Mhm.
I mean, being daylight all the time wasn't easy either. I know, like for the camp out, that was the hardest part for me. It was like it never got dark to even think like, is it time to go to sleep or try to go to sleep? But yeah,
Yeah, that would be tough for me. Did you have like a eye cover? Or
I had my
pull your
hat.
hat
I
down?
just pulled my hat over my eyes a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's cool to be able to say that you camped in Antarctica. I mean, it's cool to say you went to Antarctica, but to say you camped outside in Antarctica, that's something even less people have ever done.
Yeah, and that was important to me to be able to like I stayed there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were a temporary local in Antarctica.
For a little while, just a little while.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Where are you heading next?
I do have a few trips planned in 2026, but the next trip is February, and I think it's a place dear to your heart. I'm going to Southeast Asia for 3 weeks,
Nice.
Vietnam, Cambodia, and then a little bit of time in Thailand.
Oh, nice. Nice. What do you think about what's going on over there right now with, Thailand and Cambodia kind of being at odds?
I'm a little worried. Like I just hope it's not going to affect people visiting and getting to experience the country and experiencing everything that they can, for fear of, something like that happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's affected the touristy areas as much yet, but that's something that we were kind of concerned about and we talked about. But Thailand did bomb a Cambodian temple recently. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just that it's that kind of situation where things in the world, you make plans to go to these places and you never know what's going to happen. Things could happen while you're there. And you just
Yeah.
So, but Well, that's cool, man. We'll definitely have you back on after you get back from that trip, and have you talk about that too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, though, did you have an experience kind of coming back through customs from Antarctica?
I did. It's kind of funny. I don't know. Most people might not get it, but I do like to travel through Air Canada. I've had good experiences with them. Philadelphia Airport's the closest airport to me, and Air Canada has a big hub. And I generally can get a flight from Philly to Toronto, and then from Toronto anywhere in the world. So I've used them quite a bit over the last 2 years. I've come back into North America through Canada 5 times, and I've never had any issues. On this trip, I flew from Buenos Aires to Sao Paulo, Brazil, and then from Sao Paulo to Montreal was like the long flight. I think it was like 10 hours. It wasn't terrible, but I had to go through customs in North America and Canada. And it's always been easier going through customs in Canada than it was in the United States for whatever reason, just like luggage, everything else. And I've never had an issue. So I was going to passport control, and the agent, she handed me a slip of paper and my passport back, and she says, okay, you got to go to the left. And I can see the sign for connecting flights is showing going to the right. I'm like, don't I want to go that way? She's like, no, you got to go to the left. An agent, will be there. And there was. An agent brought me back, and I actually was in like Customs and Border Patrol, and I was detained. And they were dealing with another gentleman at the kiosk, and then two agents came out and took that gentleman somewhere else. I don't even know what that was about. And then they called me up, and the agent asked me, he's like, and he was a young male, and he said, do you know why you're here? And I said, like, well, yeah, I'm getting a connecting flight home. Like, I'm just trying to make my way back to Philadelphia to get back to Pennsylvania. He's like, no, he's like, do you know why you're in, like, here at Border Patrol? I said, I have no idea. He said, well, this hasn't been your first run-in with Canadian Customs Border Patrol. And I said, well, yeah, to my knowledge, it is. I said, if you can, jar my memory. He said, well, according to this, you got flagged because of an incident in 1994. And as soon as he said that, I thought, okay, yeah, that's accurate. And he laughed a little bit. He's like, yeah, that's before my time. And just a quick story, but 1994 is pre-cell phone, pre-internet, any of that. Kind of had a bad week. There was a rumor that you could drink in Canada at age 18. I got in my Jeep, I got on Interstate 81, and I went north. I stopped in Binghamton, Syracuse, Watertown, and Thousand Islands before I hit the Canadian border. And, I had to know nothing about the world at this point or anything in that respect other than, like, Canada's to the north. I just thought you can drive into Canada and have at it. And they stopped me, just like they do everyone. And I wasn't at like Niagara Falls or anything like that. Really, at the end of Interstate 81 at the U.S. Canadian, there's nothing there. There's nothing. I mean, people will go up there, I think, for hunting and things like that, but there's not really anything there. And the agent asked me, like, what are you doing here? I said, I heard you can drink. I'd like to find a pub. And he's like, well, how long are you staying? I said, I don't know. I said, till I run out of money, I guess. And they weren't having it. He spun me right around, sent me back over to the U.S. and they kind of interrogated me the same way. And then they sent me home. And the moral of that story is I got home, I got grounded. So that's what came out of it. But yeah, the agent laughed then when I explained everything. And apparently they had that documented because he's like, yeah, that's what it says here. I said, I'm like, well, how come like this didn't come up the last 4 times I did this? And, so I have no idea. He couldn't answer that, but, he stamped my paper and away I went. But
somebody finally put their records in a computer system. That's what happened.
That may be. Yeah. But I mean, that just had me thinking. I'm thinking that was probably my first, I was by myself then. That was like my first solo venture that kind of got cut short. But life could have been a lot different had he let me into Canada. I don't know. For all I could still be up there.
And that's what they were afraid of.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. It is funny how little things like that from your past can just come up out of nowhere,
Yeah.
You had an alias when you were, you got arrested when you were 20 and you gave an alias, and then,
Now they
20 years later, it's, yeah. I think that's a Ron White bit I just described. But, yeah.
That's a good story, though. But I'm glad you were able to make it, back through customs and they were.
Oh God, and I was tired. I just wanted to get home. That was the biggest thing. I'm tired. I'm hungry. It was like 36 hours in the airport total from when I left Buenos Aires till I got back to Philadelphia. Things were delayed because the weather in PA was bad, and so yeah, it was good to get home.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Now, what's the first thing you did when you got home?
I went to sleep because I had to get up for work the next morning. I got home about 9 a.m. and I had to be in work for like 7:45 a.m. So I brought my stuff in, went to sleep, and yeah, this is a busy time of year at work, and I'm out of vacation time, so I had no choice but to be there. Yeah.
Wow.
I can empathize with that. I'm also out of vacation time. I cannot wait for the first.
Yeah, you use up a lot of PTO being a temporary local.
Yeah.
I would. Yeah, I know. I'm 2026 is going to be the same thing. I know I'm going to get stuck working all next December because there's a few trips coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to travel for work, and now I'm like, oh, I have to use vacation time to travel.
Yeah. Did they tell you, though, back to the Border Patrol of Canada, are you like permanently flagged, or can they like unflag you?
You know what? I never asked them that. I think it's just something that comes up that I don't know. I don't know. We'll see, because I think I am flying out of Canada again. Not my next trip. That's not to where Canada. That's through, I know I'm flying out of Philadelphia to, I want to say Dulles, and then from Dulles to Tokyo, and that's on Air Nippon.
Wow.
And then from Tokyo to, I believe it's Hanoi.
Yeah, that's a hell of a flight, too.
It is a long one. Yeah. I when I did the flight to Sydney, that was long.
Yeah.
Although I think the flight home from India was like 17 hours.
Yeah. That's a hell of a flight. Yeah, when I flew to Southeast Asia, it was the longest flight I've ever been on.
They're long, yeah. Fortunately, I generally, I'm usually asleep in my seat before the plane even takes off.
Yeah, you're one of those lucky people.
It is. It's the only time I get to rest.
Yeah. Yeah, I always look over at those people that are sleeping before we even take off, and I just shake my head. I'm like, you lucky son of a bitch.
You said you're going to Southeast Asia, but also you specifically mentioned Cambodia, right?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Are you going to go to Angkor
I mean, that's
Wat?
really the draw. I want to see Angkor Wat.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it forever. We were going to plan to go this year, and then,
things changed.
Yeah. So it's still on our list, but we just keep kicking that can down the road and pushing it out.
Yeah.
I want to try to get these trips in while my knees are still holding up, and again, going back to my dad, I saw the issues he had with mobility, and I said, oh, I'll do it. But then, some of these trips, I really wish I would have started doing it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, no better time than now, though.
Yeah.
Yep. The world is big or small as you want it to be. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. Thanks for coming on and telling us about Antarctica. And we'll be looking out for some of your other travels, and keep in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure to chat with you today.
Oh, likewise. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Megan, Jared, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love to see your itinerary for Southeast Asia and Cambodia.
Yeah.
It should be exciting.
So that was our conversation with Matt. We hope you found this information interesting or useful, and maybe it sparked your interest in planning or researching a trip to Antarctica.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. Before we go, do our shameless plug to all our social media. You can find Temporary Locals on Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram at Temporary Locals Podcast. Jared is on Instagram at Rover Stover and on YouTube at Rover Stover as well. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook at Mego Goes Global. And our guest today, Matthew Hashuga, you can find him on Facebook at Matthew Hashuga. With that, we would once again appreciate any engagement on the episode. If you found something particularly intriguing, if you learned something new, let's start a conversation in the comments. Other than that,
I'm Jared.
And I'm Megan. Thanks for exploring with us.
And remember to be a local anywhere you go.
Bye.
Bye.